Dean with I Buy Cool Stuff. I've got films. I've got a projector. There's the films. And a rubber ducky. So I'm going to put my films on the YouTube. All kinds of films, whatever I've got. Vintage films, 16 millimeters. And we're going to see what we end up with. All right, we're going to get into the main film now.
This is the story of a dream come true, a fisher dream, and ends every winter to anglers heading for 3 weeks of fabulous fun. We sail to Miami, ride into the night, soar top of the world. The months of Peru and Bolivia, 20,000-foot peaks are eternally snow-covered, though it's summertime below us. Suddenly, a liquid jewel, Lake Titicaca, spreads her mirrored majesty more than 12,000 feet above sea level, and we all prepare to land briefly at La Paz, Bolivia, highest commercial airport in the world. The llama, Bolivia's beast of burden, is a trademark here and a well-worn prop for the traveler's camera. A few hours later, we sight the great capital city of Chile, Santiago, home of 1.5 million people, graced with scores of modern skyscrapers and thousands of lovely homes. We glide through the warm summer air toward the runway of Los Cerrillos Airport, crossroads of the sky, and from here our plane will head eastward for a 2,000-mile flight to the Argentine, Buenos Aires, and beyond. But for us, our Chilean adventure begins, and Santiago's 80-degree temperature is a balmy welcome we appreciate. A late afternoon dip in the pool atop our hotel is a taste of luxury, and the hospitable Chileans make it difficult to bid a hasty farewell, but the rainbows are calling. And next morning we board El Rapido, an air-conditioned, streamlined train that whisks us comfortably through the rich valleys of Valdivia, a farming province of Chile, where great golden fields of wheat stretch to the foothills of the Andes. Gold changes to the green of fine vineyards or waving corn ripening under a cloudless sky. By day's end, we're in Villarica, busy Chilean village in the Lake District, where we stretch our legs a bit, and then all gaze upward in awe at the magnificence of the volcano Villarica, dominating the sky, smoke wisping from its summit wrapped in ancient glacial snow. Early next morning, on the porch of our fine little inn, we're ready for fishing. But first, our guide, Alfred Heusser, brings each of us a light. 20 trout per day, it says, and the license costs about 28 cents. Our strikingly landscaped inn, called the Yachting Club, is nestled in a flowery setting overlooking the lake, but boasting its own intimate swimming pool. All very attractive, but we're anxious for our first encounter with those rainbow trout, great-great-grandsons of original stock from Michigan, imported to Chile more than 30 years ago. Some will fish with flies, gorgeous, colorful streamers, tied by Alfred Heusser, but to a hungry boatman with an appraising eye, a tackle box filled with flatfish is far more promising. They call these caimans, or crocodiles, in Chile. The broad mouth of the Toltane River flows beneath the handsome Toltane Bridge at the lake's outlet, and here is a home for big trout. Some of the boys are not well prepared for the vicious attack that can catch a newcomer somewhat off guard. Against the riverbank, a great trout suddenly smacks the lure resoundingly and then goes into a frenzied rush that snaps the line like a spider web. There's action in a hurry for most anglers here in the Toltane. Walt brings his first trout alongside for the boatman to net, more than a couple of pounds of Toltane River rainbow. fishermen on the bank using long Chilean bamboo poles cut from the shore. Some have fashioned fly casting reels from old tin cans, reels filled with chalk lines, and they really work. Flies are roughly tied from chicken feathers. As the morning light bursts over the high bank, Alfred's rod displays the arched signal that makes a fisherman's heart beat faster. This time a fly has lured the rainbow to strike, and he's well hooked. He fights vainly in the clear water as the skillful boatman moves close to shore, and the mighty salmon, as the Chileans call him, will become a fisherman's luncheon. And so it goes until the sun is high and we watch our boteros prepare the midday meal. A side of lamb is first impaled on a sharpened bamboo stick, green cut from a nearby grove. The green bamboo will resist the flames while the lamb barbecues over the campfire, turning constantly, basted by its own savory juices. We eat well and siesta a bit until the noisy triley bird heralds afternoon shadows on the river. And then we're ready to go back to our sport filled with memorable action. Hard fighting brown and rainbow trout that challenge one's skill, to surge, to roll, thrash, to twist, and then maybe finally to, well, just give a great leap and toss that hook disdainfully. But as Charlie Helin says, you can't catch 'em all even with a flatfish. At the other end of Lake Villarica, we find another small hotel that leaves absolutely nothing to be desired. With a sun-drenched patio literally buried in beautiful flowers, the Adamalao, as it is called, is perched high over the lake near the village of Pucan. Our rooms here are glass-walled on the lakeside, and living is beyond compare. This will be our headquarters as we fish the Liacora and Trancura rivers. And now it's early morning with the haze of woodcutters' fires hanging heavy in the air as we all ready our gear on the banks of the Liacora River high in the hills overlooking Pucan. The sun is barely visible through the haze, but soon we're already cast off and are afloat and fishing in a river filled with the vigorous beauty of wild rapids. In lower pools, we find our quarry. Lou has the look of a happy angler as a heavy brown trout comes to net. Who wouldn't smile? From a placid, wide pool, the river narrows, and we plunge into a giant chute with the tossing blue water reaching white-nailed fingers curving upward as our boteros delight in the sight and sound of their beloved river filled with an ageless challenge to man. At day's end, we check our luck in the golden light of a setting sun. Our hotel chef will prepare these in a dozen different ways for all to enjoy. Next day, we're off again, meeting ox carts along the road, centuries-old symbol of travel in this colorful land beneath the Southern Cross. Now and again, we pause along the way. ¿Cómo se llama, chiquito? What is your name, little one? My Spanish with a gringo accent brings a smile as he answers, Pietro. And then we're all in Puerto Nuevo on the shores of Lago Ranco. Another pretty little inn bedecked with flowers is our temporary home here while we fish the Rio Bueno, the good river. And while Lou and Herb lovingly tend their pet rods to check for strange perils, another member finds other interests with an admiring audience, too. Charlie photographed the flowers of Chile to add to his collection made in many lands. The Rio Bueno itself is our goal next day for a run on one of Chile's most beautiful rivers. The water here runs blue and deep in slow, swirling eddies, born of enormous boulders 20 feet below the surface. Lures dive deeply, tantalizingly, tugging at that rod tip. And then, in midstream, we find Tom, ever-present cigar clenched tightly, rod straining is somewhere far downstream as Trout shakes his head in an effort to free those hooks. The boatman moves into shallow water where the fish is forced to surface. And now we mark him as a brown trout and a good one. Steady, steady pressure. He's just off the stern, reluctant but obedient to that persistent pull. A handsome male brown trout with a huge undershot jaw. Tom works him into the shadows of the boat. No net, no gaff. We're going to have to boat him by hand. And in he comes. And only then Tom relaxes for the first time to gaze in admiration that is quickly heaped on his worthy Botero, too. 8 pounds of big brown trout, victim of a little flatfish and a lot of know-how. Tom is demonstrative. From placid pools, the great Rio Bueno suddenly narrows into a gorge filled with 2 treacherously raging troughs that could spell disaster. King of the boatmen in this river is Juan Saez, one of the best in a land where only the best of them dare challenge this raceway of foam called El Diablo. Just below the rapids, as we await our boats, another of our anglers, Herb, does battle with a trout, and this one a shimmering rainbow that is gradually worked out of the fast current, where a fish certainly has the best of it. Here's a river in Chile truly filled with big, hard-fighting trout that make for moments we'll never forget. At the luncheon spot, the boteros find a hollow log ideal as a wine cooler, while we spot the strange little pancora crab so important to the trout of Chile. Here is the mainstay of the trout diet, a crustacean that apparently replaces the insect menu favored by trout in the United States. The pancora crab lives among the rocks of Chilean rivers, and as the current occasionally brings him into the open, trout sees him in a flash, and he becomes a tasty meal filled with nourishment that inspires astoundingly rapid growth. Even while lunch is being prepared, a cast from the shore continues to bring exciting action, and it's pretty hard to turn one's back on such fishing even when the appetite says, whoa, it's time to eat. Again, the savory lamb sizzles over an open fire, and the extraordinarily red meat of the Chilean rainbow trout is ready for deep frying in golden butter. While we wait, Charlie amazes the boteros by juggling an egg, a glass, and a bottle of wine with nary a fumble. One botero says, let's see you pour the wine into the glass while you're juggling, mister. Oh, yes, these are happy people. After a night's rest at the plaza, big name for a small hotel, we negotiate for a taxi. There's time for a little sidewalk sightseeing. We look and are looked at, and then fisherman Herb casts the line, makes a catch, and arranges a picture with attractive local color. His camera is always busy. A poncho-encased farmer rides by with all the dignity of a king, and a shoeshine boy has a warm farewell smile for us. The ponderous ox carts moving along the dusty road as relentlessly as time itself suggests that the age-old invention of the wheel must have begun with a massive wooden disc like this. Back at Puerto Nuevo, a specially chartered steamer is wedging its way through the bluest of waters as we arrive. And aboard this somewhat ancient but seaworthy craft, we shall cross the 28 miles of Lake Blanco to our next stop, Deep Bend. No docking facilities here. Our skipper simply runs the bow on the shore, and we must walk the plank, tackle, duffel and all, over the steamer's rail. Newfound friends line the shore as we cast off, and we watch Puerto Nuevo drop astern to while away the time, glorying in the sunshine of a perfect day in Chile. Then the steam whistle rudely awakens us, a signal for the distant hotel that new guests are arriving. The afternoon sun is low as we dock here. There's a golden glow over the countryside while we load our gear aboard the ever-present 2-ox power pickup. Each of our anglers will have his own favorite spot in Chile, but to most, this tiny village of Yeep Bend will bring back a parade of pleasant memories, for the combination of scenic grandeur and fine fishing is mighty hard to beat. We began to explore the fishing in short order and board a big truck for a half-hour ride through Lake Maiway, headwaters of the Calcarupi River. Close to the river mouth, our truck backs down to the shore where boats and gear are unloaded, and we have time to lift our eyes now from the mirrored surface of the lake to the majesty of surrounding hills jutting with enormous rock ledges. As our float begins, early morning clouds still veil the distant mountains. The water of the Calcarupi slips by beneath us so clear that the river is deceivingly deep. Occasionally, rainbow trout of 12 pounds or more are taken here, but the average is a scrappy 2 or 3 pounder that, well, he just never gives up. He'll hit fly or casting lure with savage intent and put on a show that always delights the angler. Day in and day out, we catch more trout per hour in the Calcarupi than any man has a right to expect. Combine this with the spectacle of rugged mountains rising a sheer 3,000 feet straight up from the ever-changing moods of the river, and you can understand the love for this land that lingers through the years long after you have lived these moments of glory. Sometimes serene pools turn an emerald green, Mother Nature's way of proving she has an infallible eye for color harmony. We race around an island into a chute that pours into the ever-thirsty main arm of the river. On the shore, the long-billed Bonduria departs in ponderous haste, and as the afternoon wanes, the trout strike still more frequently, charging from the shadows to take the lure. Walt adds to his day's catch. The camera's over here, boys. That's fine, thank you. It's growing dark in the canyons of the Calcarupi. The river gathers speed near its outlet in Lago Ranco, and as we pull ashore, the twilight of a Chilean evening sheds a soft incandescence over all. As the last boat crosses, the colorama changes vividly. A single cloud with the touch of an almighty wand becomes a giant seashell in the sky. Next morning, our friend El Vapor, that's a steamboat in Spanish, takes us in tow, together with all of our little boats, for a day of fishing around the largest island in the lake. It's an hour's run to the Wati, as our island is called, an island populated solely by an Indian tribe. Boatmen cluster in the bow, bragging a little about who's going to catch the biggest one today. They're very young here for the most part, some shy about posing, and others, well, not so shy. And there's our island, rocky shores on every side, yellow fields of wheat and barley set in neat patches of fertile land above. We'll fish the entire shoreline before our steamer picks us up at dusk, but now, as we hustle into a little cove, there comes the bustle of each little boat being brought alongside. Both paddles scramble like agile squirrels to clear the line, while all of us organize our gear, ready to clamber over the side. The steamer, watchful as a mother hen, whistles good luck with a Spanish accent, and the fun begins. Blue ties into a rainbow that proves these trout are not going to come to net easily. Long, deep runs and surface action add to the thrills before one can be sure just who's going to win. Minutes later, Alfred's rod, held high, brings another big trout within range of the long-handled net. These trout must work for a meal, for they seem long and thin, but they are great fighters. Buck Sawyer's next, 100 yards offshore, then bingo, the trout is in the boat. Again, a long, streamlined rainbow built for speed and action. Ashore for lunch, the boys show off a few of these Wappy Island specimens, most of which run about the same size. And then with appetites inspired by the morning's fun, we're more than ready for one of those shore luncheons, tasty cheese topped off with Chilean salami, barbecued lamb and rainbow trout, and for dessert, rich, ripe blackberries that seem to grow everywhere. Another extra from a land blessed with bountiful crops. And so we pass pleasant hours of sport and relaxation before we're on the move again, flying southward to new lakes and rivers. The volcano of Sorno wedges into the clear blue sky far ahead, and soon we're circling our next home, the Mammoth Hotel Puyewe, a resort truly designed in a grand manner. Built at the site of a natural mineral hot spring on the shores of another large lake, this spot is a mecca for vacationists from Chile's northern cities. The grounds are handsomely landscaped, and the entrance foyer of fine stonework stands in the very center of the building. Nearby, an enclosed swimming pool offers an opportunity to float away your aches and pains in 100-degree mineral water just as it flows from the ground. But these are mere distractions to our fishermen who are soon ready for action. We row a half-mile to the mouth of the Go-Go River, to the vaunted home of some of Chile's largest rainbow trout. And it isn't long before Herb is tied into a typical example of what we can expect in the days ahead. In contrast to our Wappy Island trout, these Go-Go rainbows are great husky fish that apparently grow fat on the plentiful supply of food that flows to their mouths from the river. Easy, Herb, now. That's a gorgeous fish. And he's yours, boy. You can brag a little about this one. That's a handy gadget to help remove the hook and to get a better grip on any fish. And man alive, that is a beauty. Now the warm sun rises over the rim of the Andes. Natalie-dressed Charlie Helin's rod is set in a telltale curve, and the trout is surfacing after a 20-minute battle. It's another big one. He, too, fell for the wiggle of the flatfish, but the lure is only lightly hooked. Charlie refuses net or gaff. He'll land it by hand, or so he thinks. Look out! Nearby, Bill Hall warns there'll be more than a fish on those hooks if Charlie isn't careful. But now the silvery rainbow is alongside again. There's a final flick of the great tail, but the hook's hold, and second guesser Bill on the sideline says, "Now or never, Charlie." And Mr. Helin reaches for his prize. Look at that baby. Talk about a well-fed fish. The small head and the large body are signs of very rapid growth for which these Chilean rainbows are famous. This trout is probably little more than 2 years old, as proven by a scale examination later. 10 minutes go by and Herb battles another rainbow into submission, and the Go-Go River mouth has lived up to its reputation, and no doubt about it. In the gray light of the next dawn, we're moving toward the same magic spot, and almost immediately Buck Sawyer gets a firm grip on a rod and reel that wants to take off. The trout runs deep, and then far away he breaks water in an eye-filling roll. Far overhead, a passing Keuke hawk looks down as amazed as we at the size of this monster, and a full hour goes by while the sun rises on a drama filled with suspense. Buck gives and takes, playing his prize with the greatest skill, and finally, rising slowly from the deep lake, we see the shimmering form of this giant giant trout. He's much too big for that net, balancing across the top of the ring, and that's about all. On shore, a traily bird rises in alarm as the prize rainbow is gingerly lifted over the side, and the bird's shrill cries mingle with our own cheers, for it's plain to see that Buck has captured himself a record-breaking trophy of a Chilean rainbow trout. 21 pounds of magnificent game fish, 35 3/4 inches long, the largest trout of the year anywhere in Chile. In our stay at Puyewi, the boys took many fine trout from this same spot. 10 and 12 pounders were not uncommon. Doc Timmerick wrote a few pages in his memory book with this excellent catch one day. And Kent McIntyre centered this picture with a 15.5-pounder, but none topped the grand old trophy of the Gold Goal, Buck Sawyer's handsome 21-pounder. A scale sample revealed that this rainbow was only 4 years old. Now the time has come when our planes return, and two young Chilean fall reveres give us fair warning. El avión viene. The airplane is coming. And they pause only long enough for a snapshot before they're galloping off again to pass the word along to other members of our clan. Our pair of sky chariots glide into the field, ready for the long trip back to Santiago. Moments like this are a little sad, for the adventure is near its end, an adventure that has brought us to a land filled with the music of great rivers. Parting is such sweet sorrow. We set our course northward now, over the trees, over the familiar village patterns that border the lakes, on and on, up to the towering volcanoes that jut into the sky, their flanks blackened with once molten lava, now turned to dark stone. And then still higher, until we're looking straight down into the bubbling craters themselves, filled with sulfurous fumes. On and on to the capital city of Santiago, covered with a haze of midsummer heat. Here, some may take a day to visit the seaside resort of Viña del Mar with its magnificent hotels. Others may choose to visit friends and wander through the gardens of the city. Or to watch the pompous ceremonial changing of the guards in the plaza directly beneath our hotel windows. A day of fun in this modern city, and then it's time to board.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and like I always say, God bless you and God bless America.